Good morning, everyone. We'd like to welcome you to the March Northeast Statewide After School Networks webinar series. My name is Ken Anthony, Director of Professional Development with the Connecticut After School Network. Today we'll be learning about a model of collaboration and common vision taking place in New Britain, Connecticut. As we're going through the webinar, please be sure to type your questions in the chat box. All callers are muted, and this conference is being recorded. Let me start first with a little bit about the Northeast Statewide After School Networks. The Northeast Statewide After School Networks, Maine from New Jersey, began collaborating a few years ago to offer this webinar series as a part of a multi-state collaborative effort to bring relevant research, policy, and practices to the field of after-school and expanded learning. The Northeast Statewide After School Networks are part of the National Network of Statewide After School Networks. Each of the 42 statewide after-school networks help to foster partnerships and policies that develop, support, and sustain high-quality after-school and expanded learning opportunities. These networks were created through funding from the Charles Stewart Mott Foundation, whose continued support has helped to foster additional statewide networks, and the White Riley Peterson Policy Fellowship to help bridge sectors to help improve outcomes for children and youth. At this time, I'd like to welcome our first speaker today, first of our panelists today, Tracy Madden-Hennessy, Associate Director at the YWCA of New Britain. Tracy has worked with and on behalf of youth ages infant to high school for 30 years. She has been an active advocate and programmer in the field of out-of-school time for most of that time. Tracy has also been an active volunteer in organizations that support the healthy development of children, including Connecticut After School Network, present board member and immediate past board chair, the New Britain Youth Agency Network, steering committee member, and Coalition for New Britain's Children, past leadership team chair. Thank you, Tracy, for being on with us today.
Thanks, Ken, and good morning to everybody. I'd like to also introduce the other panelists. First, Aviva Vincent. And Aviva, can you share some information about yourself?
Sure. I work at United Way, Central Northeastern Connecticut, and I work in the Community Investment Department as a Senior Community Investment Manager, and I am involved in the areas of education, so I work as one of the project managers for the elementary school sites with the summer enrichment experience.
And Nancy Sarah from the New Britain School District.
Good morning. I work as a Central Office Administrator for the Board of Education as Coordinator of Intervention Services, Extended Day Learning, and Extended Year Learning.
Okay, now before we get started, we'd really like to know who's on the call. So on the next slide, you'll have an opportunity to check off your role, and we can see who is joining us today. And this is a reminder, if you have questions as we go along, to go ahead and put them in the chat box, and we'll try and get to as many of them as we can. Okay, great. We have lots of after-school professionals and some administrators and some statewide network personnel, so great. We're going to be talking initially about Summer Slide. Many of you may know that Summer Slide really is the phenomenon in which impacts primarily low-income children who don't have enriching activities to do during the summer. And we know that when they take tests in the spring, and they do not get the opportunity to participate in summer programming and test it again in the fall, we see that they have a lost skill level, and as you can see by this slide, it indicates there's skill level in math and reading that contributes to an achievement gap that grows as children get older. So the importance of addressing this gap is important in our community as well. And New Britain is an urban community. We're about 9 miles southwest of Hartford, the capital, so we're in central Connecticut. As you can see, the district has about 10,000 students at 3,000, a little more than 3,000 at the elementary level. 60% of our students are Hispanic, and 14% are English language learners, and more than 76% are eligible for free and reduced lunch. So and many of you may know that children here in New Britain also test lower or have test scores lower than the statewide average. Only about a third of New Britain children are at third grade proficiency when they're tested, and so that's something that we have been working to address.
So Tracy, how did you all start collaborating around this summer model?
This model actually is a hybrid of a model, and I have to give kudos to Rhode Island because we first learned about this model, a modification of this model at a Mott conference, and a group of us associated with New Britain Youth Network went to see a model in Woonsocket. And we developed it from there. New Britain Youth Network is a group of 40 agencies here in our community who work together and work towards improving outcomes for kids through after school. And we work very well together, and we work with the school district. That's an important part of our community. And you can see the mission and the vision on the slide. It is supported heavily by American Savings Foundation. We're very lucky to have a foundation in our community that supports us. But this particular model was built off of a traditional summer school model. What we saw in Rhode Island was the integration of community-based providers with certified teachers in a non-traditional after-school program. We decided to modify that a bit to better fit our community. So it, in fact, partners after-school providers who come in after the traditional summer school day is over, and then align their curriculum and their experiential learning experiences with the academics that are going on in the morning.
So looking at this model, what are the ages and grades that the program currently serves?
So this particular program began with elementary school students. Our first pilot was through a school improvement grant and began with 4th and 5th graders who were identified as scoring substantially deficient. We expanded it this past year to include 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th graders also scoring substantially deficient. And then we have also added a middle school pilot with rising 6th graders with the same profile. So to talk more specifically about the program, I'd like to reintroduce Aviva, and who will give some more specifics about what we have seen and what we've done.
So what you see here on the slide is an overview from the first year being 2011 through last summer, 2013. To go through the data a little bit more, in the first year, the target population was the incoming 4th and 5th graders who scored substantially deficient on the CMT test. The school had the school improvement grant, as Tracy had said, which allowed them to be offered summer school for both grades, covered by the state mandate and the school requirements. Together, we served 107 children in the first year through the support of 6 community-based organizations who came on site to provide engaging, enriching experiences for the students in the afternoons. Some of these organizations include the New Britain Youth Museum, the YWCA of New Britain Youth Theater, Urban Oaks, the Museum of American Art, and Parks and Recreation. The program ran for 5 weeks from Monday through Thursday. In our second year, the target population was again the 4th and 5th graders who scored substantially deficient on the CMT. Again, we had the school improvement grant, which allowed the summer school to be offered for these grade ranges as by the school mandate. There were 6 CBOs again, or community-based organizations, who provided the enrichment experiences. Many of them were the same as the prior year, being Everybody Wins Connecticut, New Britain Youth Theater, Connecticut Storytelling, Urban Oaks, and in-kind services provided by a murals project with teachers from the school and local CCSU, Central Connecticut State University, and again, Parks and Rec. The program again ran from Monday through Thursday. This year, this past summer, 2013, the target population shifted to post-K through post-3, who scored substantially deficient on their standardized test scores in literacy. This was a shift primarily to align with the New Britain campaign for grade level reading, to align also with the district's mandate to serve the incoming first through third graders as well. Additionally, there was a shift within the school district that the schools went to neighborhood schools. So the children attending each school shifted slightly, and the schools themselves for the summer were made into hubs, wherein 3 different school sites came together in one school. Rather than having the program at one independent location, this meant that 3 different schools coming together in one hub, the students that attended that hub all got the program. The difference for this, though, is when the students went back to school during the academic year, not all the students stayed in the same school. However, by having the 3 schools come together, we were able to increase the number of students served to 273, which more than doubled our student population from the first year. In order to address the student increase, we had 8 community-based organizations that came into the school, which included New Britain Youth Theater, New Britain Youth Museum, Urban Oaks Park and Recreation, a violin program, a taekwondo program, a soccer program, and a mural program. The program ran again for 4 days a week, from Monday through Thursday. One of the major components is about the staffing support for this program. We were able to have a very strong academic alignment through the support of a lead teacher. The lead teacher is the one who totally encompasses the district's mandates around, in our first year was grade level expectations, and by our third year moved to the Common Core state standards. They help support both the community-based organizations and the teachers align their daily curriculum to these outcomes so that we are able to assess the students' growth over the course of the program.
So Aviva, what does it mean to be a community partner in this model? You talk about community-based organization involvement. What does that look like?
To be a community-based organization in this program means to have a literacy-based curriculum that is aligning to the district standards. So in this year, going into 2014, it is the Common Core state standards. It also means that the community-based organization is coming on-site to the school and providing aligned educational experiential learning in the afternoon session. So the students will go to their traditional morning classroom, go to lunch. The community-based organizations will come in with their staff and have lunch with the students and then take them to their next classroom and have this afternoon session of experiential learning.
So at this time, we've talked a little bit about the model. We'd like to get a gauge of where you're all at with your partnerships. This framework that you see on your screen was developed by Harvard researcher Gil Noem and his colleagues to assess the degree of partnerships between school and out-of-school time programs. On the screen you see self-contained, which is an after-school and school are totally separate, don't really interact. Associated, where after-school and school communicate on a very limited basis. Coordinated, where the after-school and school plan events and the after-school program actively reaches out to connect with the school. Integrated, where you have joint planning occurring between school and after-school staff. They're seen as partners. And unified, where seamless learning, communication, and partnership occur between the school and after-school program. So if you could take a minute and select where you're at with your programming community, just so we can get sort of a gauge on that. And a reminder to put your additional questions in the chat box if you have any questions that come up. So it looks like folks are pretty much split across the board, with the majority being coordinated. We'll give a couple more seconds here. All right. Well, thank you so much for taking part in that poll, and I'm going to give it back to Aviva.
So what you see here on the slide is the linking to the standards. And the standards, as I explained before, were the grade level expectations in the first year, and then the Common Core state standards in the second, third, and now going into our fourth year. In the first year, the initiative utilized the grade level expectations. However, for the second 2 years, as the district moved to the inclusion of the Common Core state standards, we did as well. The important takeaway for this is to understand that the model can be adjusted to fit the needs of the school and the school district and the community partners. Each content area has a specific benchmark for success, though they are amended to fit the students' grade levels. This slide shows a few examples of the grade level expectations and Common Core state standards that were integrated. Each of the Common Core state standards uses similar language for the expectation of the students regardless of their grade. However, it is within the classroom that each of the standards is applied, where the expectation is tailored to meet the grade level standard of the student in the class. Within each of the standard areas addressed in the model, examples of standards can include foundational skills, which ask questions such as who, what, where, when, why, and how to determine the understanding of key details in text. Literacy skills to retell stories, including key details and demonstrate understanding of the central message or lesson. Writing, where students will write narratives to develop real or imagined experiences or events using effective techniques, descriptive detail, and clear event sequences. And speaking and listening to engage effectively in a range of collaborative discussions.
So what are the primary components of the model?
Well, there are 3 really big areas: the community-based organizations themselves, the school district, and philanthropy. For the community-based organizations, it is strongly encouraged to be a member of the New Britain Youth Network. Member agencies, we try to give priority to the member agencies as they are building capacity and are within a network at a grassroots level. We also encourage the ability to provide detail, experiential literacy, or numeracy-based enrichment experiences for summer programming during the time period required. And all of the programs have to be offered for the full days of the program. Experience working with the age population is highly valued, and ability to locate the services within the school. We also ask each of the organizations to be able to serve on a 1 to 15 staff to student ratio at least. The agency must be willing to work with a certified teacher to develop the curriculum. And this year in particular, we have 2 staff from the Board of Education who worked with each of the community-based organizations to detail a day-by-day curriculum for the students. And this is the first time that we're able to get to this level of detail. The agency must also work with other of the community-based organizations to create and host parent events, community engagement, kickoff, and wrap-up celebrations. We also ask that one particular staff is committed as a point person to the planning process prior to the start of the program. From the school district, there is a commitment for a certified teacher to assist the community-based organizations in developing and tailoring their curriculum that's aligned with the Common Core standards. The district also provides transportation and lunch for the students, the building space, both indoors and outdoors, identifying students and engaging their parents to ensure their enrollment in the program, data tracking and analysis, and the traditional morning sessions from their classroom. From philanthropy, there's a commitment to provide financial support to the community-based organizations and the staffing structure as needed. On this slide, you see a sample of a day. Over the course of time, it has become far more detailed, and also the hours have extended. Traditional learning is the area that you would think of where the students come in, they're in their classroom, they have one certified teacher who's helping lead them through their academic learning. Lunch is held in the cafeteria, and again, that's where the community-based organization staff comes in and actually eats lunch with the students who will be in their programs for the afternoon. And they do this every day of the program. The afternoon program is the enrichment session, wherein the community-based organizations will take their students back to their classroom or outside, and they will learn through play, such as music, theater, sports, and tactile activities.
So with all of this alignment and detail, what gains have you seen with students, either academic or social outcomes?
The outcomes are both intended and unintended. And they're very much in line with the school district's goals for community-based organization involvement. One area addresses a systematic issue of summer learning loss in alignment with the National Campaign for Grade Level Reading. And the second addresses the grassroots issue of empowering the community, including the students, to take pride and ownership in their environment. To go into more detail around the first outcome, the outcomes of the pilot were really promising, showing an increase in pre- and post-tests among 70% of the participants, with the majority of the students showing a 9 out of 10 grade level expectation in the areas of reading, writing, math, problem solving, and telling time in the first year. In the second year, the summer enrichment experience had roughly 50% increase in attendance, serving around 140 students in the 4th and 5th grade. Again, students were supported to avoid summer learning loss by gaining or maintaining academic skills that aligned with the Common Core state standards. As a result, reading tests showed an average 3% increase in student scores, demonstrating the effectiveness in preventing the loss of reading and skills in the summer months. This past summer, there was an 85% increase in encoding and decoding parts of words correctly, and a 75% increase in encoding and decoding full words correctly as measured by the pre-post test, which correlated to the students' ability to read, write, and understand their environment. The second outcome encourages students to become more connected to their learning environment, as evident by decreased behavioral issues and increased attendance. The proven data is that students who enrolled in the first 2 years of the model had no behavioral referrals going into their third academic year. And this data was reviewed by the program coordinator and supported by the district through the data tracking system.
So how has this built the capacity of community partners and helped strengthen the partnerships? And also, what are some challenges and barriers that you faced or overcome throughout the project?
Well, that speaks a lot to our unintended outcomes. We had some district-level unintended outcomes, such as how the district actually viewed the summer learning program and actually changed from seeing it as summer school to a summer enrichment experience, which is the name that we are now going by. We also started a steering committee wherein community-based organizations, funders, and the school district personnel themselves, including the data team and Nancy, who's here on the call with us, meet every single Monday for at least an hour to plan for summer, and this started back as early as September. We've also been working very heavily with the New Britain Youth Network to build interest and capacity within organizations that provide services to students within the age range, while also seeking to build this program out and have organizations ready to go when other grades can be met. We've also seen a great willingness to share data. So the information team within the school district has educated the community around the data that we have and how best to use it. We've also seen a lot of inspiration coming out of the families. The families of the students in this program have become very engaged, and we see them coming into the school daily, picking their students up, but also asking questions about their learning and asking how they can volunteer and get involved. From the funders' perspective, we've seen a grow in collaborative partnership, innovative involvement, and also sustainable investment, meaning that they're coming to the table, United Way included, in creative and innovative ways. So now I will turn this over to Nancy, who is from the Board of Education, to talk a little bit more about that partnership and collaboration.
Good morning. This is really my first year of full knowledge of the summer programming and what we wanted to do. And I think that one of the most significant pieces is the Board of Education's increased involvement in the planning stages of our summer enrichment experience. And we began, as Aviva stated, by beginning to meet weekly. And for me, it was just getting a handle on what the history has been for the last 3 years. And when Ken spoke to, where are we at in terms of summer programming, I think it's an evolution. It's always an evolution. And we've moved from working in silos to now being not fully integrated, but really we have a much deeper partnership this year because of the planning and the discussion that's been happening since September. I think for us, the first step is really to work at that partnership level. And as a Board of Education, one of our primary responsibilities is to build capacity, not only in our students and our families, but also with our community providers. And I think that that ownership of saying that we need to help and really capitalize on the strengths of what can our certified teachers do during the traditional morning to what can our community providers offer to our students in the afternoon session, all with the mind of enriching the whole child. And again, so for us, it's really about our willingness to come together and help build capacity in all providers. So basically, I mean, for us, it's what are next steps, and where do we want to see the program extend to?
So where would you like to see the program expanded to? Grades, schools, et cetera?
Right, and so this year, and Aviva stated earlier, it is a shift, and we're going post-K to post-3 because it is we do have funding. It is a mandate with the state of Connecticut for those students who are in need of reading support, as determined by their cut scores on our NWEA, which is our standard tool that we're using. In an ideal world, we'd like to see our K-8 students all being a part of our summer experiences. This year we have our K-3 students, and we also have our post-5 students, 100 of them. For us, again, I'll talk from the Board of Ed, we're looking to build capacity, and so we look to our summer programming as a way to maybe pilot some instructional strategies that we want to be using during the traditional day in the academic year, and looking at materials that we consider to be high leverage. It gives us an opportunity on a smaller scale to watch teachers teach, see what's working and what's not, and refine our curriculum from there. Also, our conversations throughout the process this year have been about strengthening our partnerships for next year through not only extending the school year for the 700 students that we'll be servicing this summer, but also to extend the school day for the next school year in 14-15. So it's really deepening our partnerships so that we can extend a student's school year and their school day. So if you look at the slide, the growth and trajectory of C, we have had weekly working meetings, and Aviva said about an hour, but I would say it exceeded an hour, probably closer to 2 hours a week. And while we look at this summer programming as a 3-week programming, 15 days, it's more about the sustainability and putting in place a system that will work, that will help us identify those students for summer and also for the after school. I think that's what we're really working toward. These meetings, they'll lead directly up to our first day of the C program, and I am sure we'll be meeting after the close of each C day to see how each day went. We do have Board of Ed staff members that will be on site each day just to ensure that the program is running the way it was intended. Creating a curriculum in advance and housing in our online curriculum also ensures that the foundation is set and ready for adjustments next year based on the feedback from the experience we get this year. One piece that, and when we were talking to building capacity and really when we look at the Board of Education and our certified teachers and our community providers, it's working toward each person's strength. And so while we know traditionally our classroom teachers are the ones that are the teachers of reading, we look to the Common Core state standards, and our focus in the traditional morning is going to be around those foundational skills with some speaking and listening skills as well. We're going to target our instruction there for 3 weeks. When we look in the afternoon session, what can our community providers offer that will support our reading in the classroom? And for us, the answer is with the speaking and listening component. And also, outside of the Common Core state standards, we are looking at the social and emotional wellness of all of our children. And that is something that, if united, if we can all come together and work toward a common language for our students around social and emotional learning, common strategies to help our students regulate, that's a win. And so we're looking to increase social emotional wellness for all of our students throughout the day.
So how is this model different from extended learning time? You know, often you hear about longer school day, longer school year. What's different about this model as compared to that?
Well, this summer enrichment experience is aligned with our vision of educating the whole child. It's understanding that the children don't only learn from that academic classroom experiences and oftentimes are tuning out to a portion of that day, but creating a dynamic experience where all modalities are being served in order to reach all students. It's truly an enrichment experience that brings the school and the community together all day long with the potential of accelerating the learning of our New Britain students. I'm going to turn it back over to Tracy, who's going to talk about the evolution of the initiative.
Okay. What we identified moving forward was that many of our children beyond the 3rd and 4th grade also needed the additional support and were behind in their literacy skills. So for the first time last year, we offered a summer hub at the middle school level, which we were, our goal was to recruit 100 students, but we ended up with 69 students attending a 4-week program. The biggest difference between the kids at the elementary level and those at the middle school level, elementary school programming is actually mandated programming, whereas the middle school programming is voluntary. So as we all know, the middle school students are voting with their feet and deciding to come. So we had to create something that they would come to. The same great results we found at the elementary level were evident in the middle school program. We found that students who were administered a pre- and post-test to evaluate their learning gains showed a 25% gain in knowledge, and those students who actually had come through the Smalley program first, the elementary school model first, and then joined us for the middle school program actually showed an even bigger gain of 50% in their literacy skills. So we know that this program works. And we also found that the students who attended the pilot had less disciplinary actions than their counterparts. So we know it worked in that regard as well. And I think the results were the main reasons that the school system agreed that we should expand it for this upcoming year.
And I just want to jump in for a quick second, and it ties in with what Tracy was saying. And she was talking about it being mandatory for K-3 and voluntary for our post-5th graders. And I think one thing that we've worked really hard on together is rebranding or changing the face of that traditional summer school, right from the letter that's sent home to parents saying your child is mandated to attend to congratulations, your child has been selected out of many children. And I think that it's selling a product of a full day experience for children. And the other piece that we are attending to is we decided that instead of doing traditional 1 week after school lets out, having kids come back when they're really tired and they need to spend some time with their family, we're looking to bring it as an early back model where we're starting in the early first week of August and going right up to the lead of the school year. So it's allowing our students to get a jump on other students and come in 3 weeks early. And it also affords parents a daycare opportunity for 3 full weeks prior to the start of the school year. And I just want to, Aviva's telling me here, we will be servicing our students for 120 hours in that 3-week period.
So looking to other communities, how can other communities get started with a model like this? What are some good first steps to starting an integrated level of partnership like the one in New Britain that you've all talked about?
Well, this is Tracy, and I certainly think it helps if a community has a network or a group of agencies, community-based agencies, who are already communicating. It certainly requires a school district who is willing to partner with us, and many of us know that doesn't exist in every community. So New Britain is very fortunate in that regard. So really, a lot of this is relationship building and trust building We piloted the first program, but I think the trust was built when the outcomes started coming in, and we started recognizing the fact that if we worked together, that we were going to have a stronger impact on children's outcomes than the way we had been working before, which was very siloed.
I would also say having a lead agency who's a part of the network, but that's able to facilitate conversations with the school district, and really having a person-to-person conversation. And it's important to have one point person who can advocate for the needs of the community and understand the needs of the school district and relay those back and forth, so that as the outcomes and indicators are either created or solidified, that they are meeting the needs of both communities at the same time.
And another thing that we found too was the first year we tried the program, the community-based organizations were providing services both at the school and in community locations, and that really did not work. So we found that the community-based organizations had to provide their services in the schools that were being served to be effective.
And if I might add, just from the Board of Ed's perspective, and literally I think anyone who works for the Board of Education knows how very, very busy we are and how much work we have. And I think for me, just being the first year here, being a point person for the District for Intervention Services has certainly helped, and that was a newly created position this past year. But also having our providers, Aviva, Tracy, coming and building a relationship with that one point person, me, and then developing a committee from there, and coming to the table with plans was so helpful for me. Because I think from a Board of Ed perspective, sometimes you think, I cannot do one more thing. There's just not enough hours in the day. But to have our partners come with, look, we've outlined plans for you. And so there was a skeleton to begin the work from. And that was really appreciated from the Board of Ed's perspective.
Yeah. And New Britain also was very fortunate in that I know folks have asked questions about funding. The school district certainly provided the funding for the morning session. But the afternoon session, community providers weren't expected to pay or provide services free. So we had to go as a group, and we had a lead agency both for the middle school program and for the elementary program. The elementary program, it's been United Way. The middle school program, this year it's the YWCA, although last year it was another community-based organization, OIC. And it's really those community-based organizations that are the leadership who work together with all the community-based organizations who become partners in this to submit proposals. And we've had not only United Way funding, but funding from a myriad of other community-based foundations that have really supported this work so that it could go forward. And I think without that, it would be difficult to do.
So at this time, we're going to take some questions. If you could type your questions in the chat box. We have a few that folks have already sent in. So our first question comes from Naomi, who says, did the CBOs come in for free or reduced fees? And while they provided experiential learning, how was the program staffed?
Well, speaking as one of the community-based organizations, this is Tracy. We were paid a fee, but it was the understanding and the grants, when we worked for grants and stuff like that, that the CBOs would only come in and charge the fee for the direct service. So we are not being paid for overhead. We're not being paid for the preparation time it takes in the spring, so that part is our in-kind into this project. And most of our projects were staffed with two staff. We from the YWCA had a head teacher who actually had a degree, actually had a master's degree, but that's not necessary. it really requires someone with experience in after school, someone who can do the lesson planning, and so that when they meet with the school district person, they can translate the programming that they traditionally do, which is experiential and sometimes recreational, into something that's going to address those, in our case, literacy skills for the targeted population of kids that we're trying to reach. So,
the other side of staffing, Nancy and I will speak to this, that the actual program from August 4th to August 22nd, the staffing there, the Board of Education covers nearly all of the staff. So the teachers, there's a lead teacher position, which is essentially a building principal. There are curriculum specialists who help the community-based organizations develop curriculum. And the data personnel, the secretary, the nurse, all of those other pieces that are necessary to make this program run, the Board of Education has stepped in. The only position that is not paid for currently by the Board of Education is a teacher liaison position, and that is a certified teacher who comes in at the beginning of the day and stays till the very end and ensures that the education is absolute quality provided at all times, and will provide real-time coaching, especially supporting the community-based organizations when implementation can be an issue. Other than that, it has been agreed upon, and it's been a commitment by the Board of Education to support the staffing structure.
Right, and so this is Nancy from the Board of Ed, and so from our end of it, we are staffing the classroom teachers during the morning session, the traditional part, but we're also expanding some of our staff to work the full day. And as Avita said, the teacher liaison, the principal or the lead teacher, they'll all be there full day, as well as the behavioral support assistant who will be there full day. We also have a parent outreach coordinator that we have on site during the day, but backing it up, even now as we send out our initial letters to families, letting them know of the program, we have our parent outreach department in the Board of Education who will be following up with phone calls even before the start of the August program.
Another question from another participant is, are parents charged for their children to participate in any portion of the programming?
Not at all. This is fully funded by the Board of Education and our community providers. We just ask that our parents make a commitment to have their students attend the full 15 days. That's really what we'd like to see. So there is no fee at all.
And then another question is, how did you incorporate play into the day?
So community-based organizations really were the component where kids got to do the experiential stuff and have some downtime and have some time with the kids doing hands-on activities, and some of those activities were outside. Some of them are gym and recreational activities, but as after-school providers, we have to be creative about how we integrate the literacy skills into some of the sports activities or into some of the physical play activities that we traditionally do. And so that's what we all had to do, that we had to come up with lesson plans that would take what we were doing in terms of programming and integrate core common standards into them. But it wasn't all, it's definitely not all classroom and sit-down experiences. It's very hands-on, very active learning, and I know Ken calls it stealth learning. So that's a lot of what it is in the afternoon.
And I'm just gonna, we also have a theme that unites actually the traditional, the morning and the PM session. And our theme is around community, and it's fitting because our community providers are coming in and providing a lot of the learning for our kids in the afternoon. But it's that piece of community. So even in the traditional morning sense, we do have some breaks that we put in there for movement and those sorts of things. But that theme of community, I think, helps with those Common Core speaking and listening skills that we are looking to our community providers to enhance or enrich.
Nancy writes, I love the idea of holding the program right before school starts. The challenge I know I would have is that the custodians are doing the final cleaning and school day teachers are in their classrooms setting up. Is this a challenge for you?
I'll let you know at the end of this session. So we've done some pre-planning with that. I have already been in meetings with the heads of facility management so that we can figure out how to deploy custodians, and it might be from one building to the next. So during the 3 weeks while that programming is going on, knowing that we've got, they can do, the whole building will not be used. Only a portion of the building will be used. They will get the classrooms and things done ahead of time that are not being used, and then possibly deploying custodians from one building to the next to get the building shiny and new and ready for the first day of school. In terms of teachers coming in to want to prepare their classrooms, because the traditional day only goes until 1 o'clock, the academic teacher during the school year can come in after 1 o'clock each day. And again, this is our first year trying. We're really trying to market this in a way that's going to increase our attendance from the traditional model to this new model.
One other question is about with the partnerships that you have, how do you keep either the school system from becoming the central core partner, or how do you keep the partnerships kind of even between the community and the schools?
I think it's an ebb and flow, and I think that, and Aviva, you can speak to this, and it's capitalizing on each one's strengths. And again, so if the Board of Ed is in the business of education and helping people build capacity, then that's a responsibility on us. And if our community providers are, if their strength is to provide experiential learning, we'll learn from them also. I think it's an ebb and flow. Aviva, I don't know, do you want to speak to that?
I think it very much is. I think that the proof of collaboration and true collaboration is seen through our steering committee meetings. They are extremely diverse. No one has ever been turned away from the table. There has never been a predominant entity at the table either. It has been community-based organizations, funders, and the Board of Education in equal distribution. I think that says a lot to the initiative. I think the other piece of it is understanding that summer school traditionally is a Board of Education commitment. Mm-hmm. And so as United Way, we actually look to the Board of Ed to take ownership over it, and we enjoy seeing that. And the fact that we have a very open, candid, and honest relationship between entities means that we can say, hey, we have this opportunity and talk about it. And if it's right for the kids, you know best, and you've been able to turn back and say, that sounds great, how do we do this, and have an honest conversation. And that really has made the difference.
Well, I don't see any more questions. So I'm going to first thank all of our panelists for being here with us today, and move on to our next webinar, which is next month, April 17th, hosted by the Maine After School Network. Helping Youth Thrive is job number 1, April 17th from 11:30 to 12:30. I'll also say that this webinar and all our past webinars from the Northeast After School Networks are posted on each statewide network's website. So for information on how to get a hold of this webinar, please contact your statewide After School Network in your state. And finally, here's contact information for all of us, Tracy, Nancy, Aviva, and myself. If you have any questions related to any content or the webinar series itself, please feel free to email who would be the appropriate person there for you. Thank you all for joining us today, and have a great weekend.